I was 19 when the stranger took everything. My backpack, my phone, my wallet, even the cheap watch my grandfather gave me before he passed away. I'd fallen asleep on the last train home after working a double shift at a grocery store. When I woke up, the seat beside me was empty, and so were all my things. At first, panic hit me hard. I searched every corner of the train, while the few remaining passengers stared at me like I'd lost my mind. The conductor finally told me the station was closing and I had to leave. Rain poured outside. No money, no phone. No way home. I sat under a flickering bus stop light, wondering how one person could ruin an entire life in 10 minutes. Then an old man walked over carrying 2 cups of coffee. "You look like the universe just robbed you," he said. I laughed a little. "Pretty much." He handed me a cup and sat beside me. For the next hour we talked while the rain hammered the streets. He told me stories about traveling when he was younger, about mistakes he'd made, and about how losing things sometimes forces you to notice what actually matters. Before leaving, he reached into his coat pocket and handed me a business card. "Come by tomorrow," he said. "I think I have work for you." I almost threw the card away, but the next morning I went. Turns out he owned a small music studio downtown. I started helping clean equipment and organize cables after school. A few months later, he taught me audio editing. A year later, I was helping produce songs for local artists. Now music is my career. Sometimes I still think about the stranger who stole my backpack on that train. If he hadn't taken everything I had, I never would have ended up at that bus stop. And I never would have found the life I was meant to live.
I used to think love meant saving someone. When I met Talia, she was funny, beautiful, and completely chaotic. On our first date, she told me she'd once gotten banned from a grocery store for borrowing a shopping cart and riding it downhill into traffic. I laughed because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. Still, I stayed. Every red flag looked pink when I was in love. Talia always had a problem that needed fixing. She lost jobs because her bosses were jealous. She fought with friends because they were fake. She got kicked out of apartments because landlords were spying on her. Somehow, I became the only person she trusted, so I tried to help. I paid bills. I skipped hanging out with friends because she said they hated her. I even let her move into my apartment after she claimed someone was stalking her. That was mistake number 1. At first, things felt normal. Then strange things started happening. My phone would disappear and reappear in weird places. My coworker said a woman kept calling the office asking who I was with. One night I woke up at 3 a.m. and found Talia standing over me in the dark. She smiled and whispered, "I just like watching you sleep." I didn't sleep much after that. Then came the notebook. It was hidden under our bed. Inside were pages and pages about me, every conversation I'd had, every place I went, names of people I talked to. There were timestamps, drawings, entire pages about a waitress who smiled at me once. At the very end she wrote, "If he ever leaves me, I'll make sure nobody else gets him either." I confronted her the next morning. She cried, screamed, threw a mug at the wall, then somehow convinced me she was just scared of losing me. So I stayed again. Mistake number 2. A week later I came home to find every photo of my female coworkers cut out of our company group picture. Their faces were scratched black with marca. Talia calmly cooked dinner like nothing happened. That night, my best friend called and said someone had sent him messages pretending to be me, threatening him to stay away from my girl. I finally realized something terrifying. Talia didn't need saving. I did. Leaving her was harder than loving her. She called me 83 times in one night. She waited outside my office. She sent flowers to my mother's house with notes that only said, "I know." Eventually, the police got involved. Then lawyers. Then therapy. The therapist asked me something during our 3rd session that stuck with me. "Why did you believe it was your job to destroy yourself to keep someone else happy?" I didn't have an answer. It's been 8 months now. I have a restraining order, a new apartment, and 3 different locks on my door. Sometimes I still check over my shoulder when I walk home. Last week I opened my mailbox and found an envelope with no stamp. Inside was a photo of me entering my building. On the back, in Talia's handwriting, were 4 words. "You forgot your umbrella."
My son's science project triggered a school lockdown. He built a radio. Ethan had always been different from other kids. While most 12-year-olds played video games after school, Ethan spent hours in the garage taking apart old electronics. Broken TVs, clocks, remote controls, nothing was safe from him. His mother joked that one day he would either become a genius or accidentally blow up the house. For the school science fair, Ethan decided to build a homemade radio. It actually works, he told his dad proudly. Holding up the messy box of wires and metal parts, it can pick up signals from really far away. His dad smiled. Just don't contact aliens with it. The morning of the science fair. Students filled the gymnasium with colorful posters and projects. Ethan sat nervously beside his radio while judges walked around asking questions. At first, nothing happened. Then Ethan turned the dial. Static crackled through the speaker. Suddenly, a voice burst out loud and clear. Code red. Lockdown immediately. A suspect inside the building. The gym froze. Teachers stared at each other in panic. Then the school alarm started screaming. Within seconds, students were rushed into classrooms. Doors slammed shut. Lights were turned off. Some kids cried while teachers whispered for everyone to stay quiet. Ethan sat alone in the gym staring at his radio in horror. I didn't mean to. Police officers stormed the school 15 minutes later. They searched every hallway, every classroom, every locker, but they found nothing. No suspects. No danger. Hours later, the lockdown finally ended. Parents flooded the parking lot, angry and confused. Reporters even showed up outside the school gates. That night, 2 government agents arrived at Ethan's house. "We need to take the radio," one of them said calmly. Ethan handed it over, confused. "Why?" The agents exchanged nervous looks. One finally answered quietly, "Because your son somehow intercepted a private emergency. Frequency that shouldn't exist anymore." "What does that mean?" Ethan's father asked. The agent hesitated. Then he said, "That transmission was sent 20 years ago, before anyone could respond. The radio sitting unplugged inside." The agent's case suddenly crackled back to life, and a frightened voice whispered through the static, "He can hear us now."
When my teacher asked what our parents did for work, everybody gave normal answers. My mom's a nurse. My dad owns a shop. My parents are lawyers. Then she pointed at me. I shrugged. My dad drops bombs for a living. The classroom went silent. A kid near the window whispered, "What?" I didn't understand why everyone looked horrified. Dad had told me about his job 100 times. He worked in demolition. Old buildings, broken bridges, unsafe factories. He blew them up safely, so new things could be built. But I didn't get the chance to explain. My teacher suddenly grabbed the phone on her desk. Another teacher rushed into the room. Within minutes, alarms started blaring through the hallways. "Everybody outside, now!" Kids screamed and shoved each other toward the exits. 3 classrooms were evacuated while teachers searched backpacks and lockers. One boy cried because he thought there was actually a bomb in the school. Meanwhile, I stood outside in the parking lot, completely confused. An hour later, 2 police officers arrived with my dad. He still wore his orange construction vest and dusty boots from work. The principal marched up to him nervously. "Sir, your son said you drop bombs for a living." Dad blinked twice. Then he burst out laughing so hard he had to lean against the police car. "I work demolition," he explained between laughs. "I blow up condemned buildings." The officers sighed in relief. Teachers looked embarrassed. My principal rubbed his forehead like he suddenly had a headache. Dad crouched beside me and smiled. "Buddy, next time just say I work construction." I nodded. "Okay." Then I looked at the principal. "But technically, he still drops bombs."
Please write in the comments which one do you like, and subscribe for more videos.